Thanks for having me into PE. It was really eye opening.
Loud?
Well, no, I mean I've been in there and it's been loud. I've been into CU and PE quite a bit and see the kids, and it never ceases to amaze me how they stay engaged the entire time. And I think if your objective was to hit on student engagement, you did a great job with this particular lesson. It was something that could have been really mundane and dreadful. They stayed on it the entire period, so I think that piece of it was really successful. Um, uh, that was my kind of overview. What part of the lesson were you most pleased with?
I don't want to be cliche and say the student engagement part, but I didn't feel like I heard that much negativity between the groups. I felt like, for the most part, they were trying to be pretty supportive of each other. When somebody, especially during the first one, and that was probably the most difficult one, the towel pushing, they were trying to give each other, for the most part of what I heard, granted I was talking probably too much and the music was pretty loud, but I feel like they were trying to give each other, quality feedback.
Mm-hmm. Was there anything that you thought, if you were to do this again, I mean, it's the fourth time today you've taught it, but after this eighth grade group, what would you change?
I didn't like that I didn't have time to wrap it up properly. I really wanted to see what they would have said as compared to what the fifth graders said. So I'm kind of upset, but miffed that I just ran out of time.
What took longer?
I don't really know. I think it took them long. It takes them longer to get out, which doesn't make sense because they're coming from tech and ag and they just throw their stuff there. I don't know. Maybe if they just didn't get out fast enough today, because we did our race to 100 like we've done most every day, but maybe I think the setup took a little longer. They asked a few more questions than I anticipated. Maybe that took long. I'm struggling to visually picture it that well, even though it happened 40 minutes ago.
Right. That was one thing I had a question with warm-up. Can you explain that a little bit to me? Because the kids were asking, well, has the second bell rung yet? And they were trying to figure that out.
Well, we started this when we came back from our 4-day weekend after the conference in Bushnell, and we were just trying to kind of figure out how to motivate them a little more, and more importantly, how to get them out of the locker room faster, so they're not dilly-dallying in there. And we just decided to create teams and try to emphasize quality over quantity. Instead of running constantly for 6 or 7 minutes, they're going to run a shorter period of time, not more often, but harder for a shorter period of time. And so what we started doing, the first couple days we did it, they just, when you came out, you ran. Well, then you're just, the way we do it now, we're still kind of rewarding the kids that get out faster, but we decided that they weren't to start until the second bell rang to officially start class. So you've got the bell to end the previous class, and then the bell to start that class. So we just decided to make it fair, they're going to be there to start that class, which, looking back on the time thing, is, I don't know where I lost my time. I think we might have done an extra one of something. But really, those kids are ready when they're waiting on the bell. So we are maximizing our full time to where before, it's taking us, the 3 to 4 minutes, and then we usually go a couple minutes past the last person out. But when I looked at my watch to wrap it up, we were still almost 8 minutes, but hold on a second, 2:22. Okay, so it only took us about 6 minutes for our warm-up, which is probably pretty decent.
Would you say you accomplished your goals that you wanted to in this lesson? In the pre-conference, we kind of talked about student engagement, pushing, effort, honesty, support. Would you say that you achieved those?
Yeah, I'm still not sure about the honesty part. I just, in short of them coming up and telling me secretly, which would take a lot longer, I still just think that sometimes kids kind of go by the Price is Right thing, where they're just going to say one more than the previous person. But for the most part, very pleased with the effort. There's just a couple, just like most of the time, there's a couple kids that weren't giving it all for one reason or another. I know Logan was dealing with some stuff from Randall leaving, and the couple girls just struggled to give 100% effort all the time. But other than that, I was pretty pleased.
How did this connect to the prior student learning? So what skills were they doing in here that connected to what you've built up to?
We hula hooped on, today's Friday, we hula hooped yesterday. So that we took what they learned yesterday and applied it to that part of that. We've been working on strength, muscular strength all year because that's one of our SLOs. Everything we did had a running component, so they're working on the cardiorespiratory stuff. Hand-eye coordination is something that we need and a skill we require for most of our lessons, but whether it's throwing or volleyball or pickleball or badminton or hockey. And then what was another one? Jump roping is a coordination thing that we talked about yesterday as well. We hula hoop and jump rope yesterday.
I had a
This week
question.
is long.
Was there any reason that you structured the exercises in the particular order that you did?
No, sorry.
That's okay.
Honestly, I just kind of tried to vary it up because I did it in a particular way, 5th grade PE, and then a particular way 6th grade, and in 6th grade I forgot to do the towels, which really upset me because that's, one of the things that I really like to do with them in track practice because it is something different and it's a little harder than normal. So I just kind of switched it up just to keep it fresh, I guess, for the most part.
Okay. And then you had, right before the students did the jump rope activity, no, right before they did the push-up activity, you said, okay, take a breather, here's a good spot to do that. Is there a reason that you inserted that, 30 seconds to a minute worth of rest there compared to anywhere else?
I don't recall when that was. I think it was maybe it was just kind of in the midpoint because we were working them pretty hard, especially for a team that only had 3 people, and there was a couple that had 3, and there was one that had 5 or 2 that had 5. I could have, if I would have been thinking more clearly, I could have spaced those out so that everybody had the same amount. But I think it was kind of centralized in kind of like the brain breaks that I use up at the high school, just to kind of reset and maybe refocus. And I don't even remember doing that. I think I know what you're talking about. But
And then you, originally in the pre-conference, we had talked about doing a triangle race for the very end, or the pyramid. And then you changed it in there. Was there a reason for that?
yeah, we were running out of time.
Okay.
And that took quite a long time in both the other classes that I did that. Probably, I could count the number of lines that they would have to run for that, but it just took a lot longer than we had allowed. And they were, honestly, I was late getting them to the locker room anyways. We tried to get them dressed about 3:01 or so, and they were almost 3:03. So if I would have had enough time, I would have done that.
So where do the students go from here?
Well, they're gonna kind of get a break for a couple weeks. We're gonna start badminton next week. We're gonna have different running teams, just to kind of keep them fresh. But we're still gonna keep that aspect of it because we did like it. We kept the same ones for a couple weeks so they could build some unity and togetherness. We did reward the winning team of both the competitions and the cyclone, or the running at the beginning of class, our daily warm-up, with $5 cyclone bucks. And so the week of spring break, we're going to do our 4 fitness tests that we talked about at our pre-conference. And then I don't know if we might hit it up once more before school gets out, but for the most part, we probably, unless we're not very happy with where we are.
Did you take baseline tests on all the students at the beginning for physical fitness? You said, if we're not happy where the students are, how are you gauging your happiness in their student performance?
Yeah, I've got all the historical data on my computer. And then what I do with the SLOs is the work that we've done with those. We actually did a midpoint and then the midpoint. So the thing we're going to do now, so they'll actually have been tested 4 times on the push-up, and then I think only at the midpoint, so 3 times on the beat test. So I've got a lot of data. I'm not saying the other 2 fitness tests are not as important, but those are not part of our SLO, so we don't emphasize the push-up and the sit and reach. You know, flexibility is just kind of part of all the things that we do.
So what kind of data would make you not happy with her progress? Do you want to redo this again?
Honestly, most of the time, when the times that we've tested, or when I've tested the boys and then the co-ed, I don't have any data on the 7th graders because they're a new class, but I have consistently made like 85% improvement. So I would say, you know, I don't know if there's a certain number, but obviously if more kids didn't make it than normal, I'd probably reassess and say, okay, what is happening?
Now you could ask me to kind of look for students being positive towards each other or supporting. I noticed a lot of stuff, surprising and very little negative in the back. So kids were clapping for each other. I noticed one student yelling encouragement to her teammates, and at first it sounded like negative, but it was just the intensity that she was yelling. I noticed kids commenting on each other like, wow, she's fast, while they were watching other kids run, so it wasn't even directly. They were giving high fives to each other. They were congratulating their friends on other teams, so it wasn't even just within their own team. There was unsolicited clapping for the winning team after the very first announcement of who got points. I noticed them figuring out a strategy of who's going to go in what order. During the hoop-off, you had friends that were facing each other when they were hooping. There were kids that were hollering to each other, you know, you can go faster, I know you can. Actually, I thought they were being honest about their numbers from what I was counting. And, you know, if they were doing a Price is Right, your numbers would have just gotten larger all the way down the line. So they were really being pretty accurate. And there was a group that said, yeah, we only had 7, and they were honest about it. They were really quiet when, like, JP asked a question, and they were quiet and listened to him. You didn't have to holler at him. I noticed one student, Levi, disengaged at one point, and then Keegan went over to him and talked to him, rubbed his head for a little bit. Levi looked up and smiled, and then came right back. So that was really cool.
Doesn't do that.
No, it was really cool seeing that. Bailey spiked her football for a celebration after winning the football throw. Oh yeah, it was pretty intense. And there were other students, like Olivia sat down for a while, and her teammates were encouraging her to get up. That's good. And then I saw lots of kids trying to, you know, with the push-up, figure out what to do. They were checking on, like Kaya came up lame on the last activity. Other kids went over and checked on her, not even friends. So there was lots of positiveness. Cool. I didn't notice any students saying negative things towards each other. The only thing I heard when they were going in the locker room, and I don't think it was a negative, and I know it was a boy, they were hollering out, God, that sucked. But I think it was because the level at which they worked the whole period, and it was hitting them. Because the very last one, the lines, I noticed as the period went on, they were quieter and quieter as far as yelling.
They worked hard.
They worked really hard, and I think they were realizing that as they went into the locker room. So,
cool.
Is there any, based on this and the lesson and the activity, what you're doing, is there any professional development that you would want to seek out to help improve this portion of your teaching?
I mean, I always like going to the Mid-State IAFRD conference to get new ideas and stuff, but we already went to the task force conference there. So other than that, you know, I might hit that up next year. But yeah, I like going to the Mid-State one.
Okay. I think that's it. Thank you.
Yep.